In today's video, we're going to check out the top 5 best CPUs for gaming in 2019. I made this list based on my personal opinion, and I tried to list them based on their price, quality, durability, and more. For more information on these CPUs, you can check out the description below. At number 5, it's the AMD Ryzen 7 2700X. The AMD Ryzen 7 2700X was the first in the line of the AMD second-generation Ryzen processors. AMD returned to prominence in the CPU market with the introduction of its first generation of Ryzen series and pressured Intel to adjust for the first time in 10 years. AMD Ryzen 7 2700X is a huge step forward, with its enhanced boost algorithms is adding performance advantage in heavily threaded applications. The Ryzen 7 2700X uses the Precision Boost 2 technology, a technology that alters the running speed of each core of the chip based on the workload. When a task is given to a core, it'll jump from 2.2 GHz of power saving speed to the 3.6 GHz, which is minimum base clock speed. The Precision Boost 2 will increase the clock speed continually by 25 MHz depending on the workload, maxing at the base clock speed of 4.3 GHz. The technology basically saves power when performance is not needed and gets the max of the processor when the need comes. The AMD Ryzen 2700X is built on a 12nm process. The low power usage and less heat production is the result of the smaller transistor size. Also, it reduces the production cost of the chip by allowing more chips to be made of each wafer of silicon. The 2700X has a TDP of 105 watts, which is very impressive compared to its clock speed. The chip ships together with the Wraith Prism cooler. It uses a total of 4 heat pipes to draw heat to the metal radiator. On top of it is a 90mm fan with RGB lighting, and there's also a switch on the side for the fan for alternating between high and low speeds. The AMD Ryzen 7 2700X is also backwards compatible with all of its motherboards. However, some motherboards don't have the necessary power requirements, so they run at lower base clock speeds. The processor is fairly overclockable and has a competitive price compared to its Intel counterparts, but of course it has some disadvantages as well. Overall though, with its 8-core performance with a max base clock speed of 4.3 GHz and Performance Boost 2, it's a great option for do-it-yourself builders. At number 4, it's the Intel Core i5-8400. AMD has really challenged Intel's processors with its new Ryzen CPUs. In response to AMD, Intel released the all-new Coffee Lake-based i7 and i5 CPUs with 6 cores each. The Core i5 offers the best performance for your money's worth. It's faster than the Core i7 7700K in most games and through various applications. The mid-range options have never been clearer than with the Intel Core i5-8400. The Intel Core i5-8400 is a 6-core CPU. It has a base clock speed of 2.8 GHz. However, it's capable of reaching a maximum of 4 GHz turbo speed on a single core, unfortunately. The CPU mostly hangs onto a 3.8 GHz frequency during everyday normal use. It may not look much, but with its 6 cores and an all-core turbo of 4.3 GHz, 4.6 GHz if you use an Asus motherboard that enhances Intel's turbo, the CPU is capable of overclocking up to a massive 5.1 GHz with ease. The Coffee Lake design gives some great advantages, but it doesn't allow backwards compatibility. In the Kaby Lake generation architecture days of Intel processors, it was fairly easy to recommend the i5-7600K with hyper-threaded chip instead of the Core i7-7700K or the i5-7400 in that matter. It was also the same configuration with a lower base clock speed. It's the same recurring case. It isn't as exciting as its hyper-threaded cousins. However, when it comes to questions about a mid-range CPU, with the Intel Core i5-8400, you'll get the most bang for your buck. It's cheaper than the 6-core Ryzen 5 and performs better than the last generation high-end CPUs of Intel. It produces amazing frame rates in gaming. The second-generation Ryzen CPUs have come closer in the department of gaming performance, but for its price range, there is no competition for the Intel Core i5-8400. In the gaming department, it's up there with the very best. However, outside of it, it is kinda lacking. With the capability of being overclocked to 5.1 GHz without any issue of overheating and such, the new generation Coffee Lake build, and for its massive value, makes this a go-to processor for starter gaming builds, one of the best CPUs on the market. At number 3, it's the Ryzen 3 2200G. The The Ryzen 3 2200G is your best budget choice for a CPU. It's cheaper than its competition, the Intel Core i3 8100. It also has a built-in graphics processor that'll offer better gaming performance than you'd have expected. If you're building a budget desktop PC, then the Ryzen 3 2200G is your best bet. It offers light gaming with its integrated graphics processing unit and decent everyday productivity. The Ryzen 3 2200G has 4 cores and 4 threads. Its base clock speed is 3.5 GHz, enough for tasks that do not demand a heavy CPU usage. Simple Photoshop touch-ups to your pictures or unzipping archive folders will be done without putting much strain on the CPU. However, if you open a dozen tabs in Chrome and try to stream a video in any one of them, you'll see that CPU struggles to hang on. It's a very close match with its main competitor, the Intel Core i3 8100. They both have a 40nm production process and have a thermal design power of 65 watts under normal circumstances. Both of the processors are not capable of multi-threading. The main advantage of the Ryzen 3 2200G over the Intel Core i3 8100 is the ability to be overclocked. All Ryzen chips support overclocking, but to overclock a Core i3, you have to upgrade to a hyper-threading capable Core i3 8350K, which is double the price of the Ryzen 3 2200G with very close performance. The Ryzen 3 2200G also features AMD's main performance improving feature, the Precision Boost algorithm. It's the same technology used in the aforementioned AMD Ryzen 7. The AMD has also added the extended frequency range, a technology that supervises the CPU temperatures and can boost base clock speeds if it detects that it won't cause overheating or that your cooling system can deal with the overload. The built-in GPU is also able to handle gaming to some extent. It's not the same AMD Radeon Vega experience you get from a discrete GPU, but the built-in Vega carries on some of its bigger brother's traits. This CPU is definitely the best option if you're a little short on finances but want to build yourself a decent machine. At number 2, it's the Intel Core i9 9900K. The Intel Core i9 9900K is the most powerful chip in the Coffee Lake refresh generation of the Intel Core lineup. It's versatile and multi-purpose, however, it may be a tad too powerful if you don't need heavy computing performance from your PC. If you're an avid gamer, creative, or engineer, this Intel processor is the best you can get. However, if you need raw gaming unit, you can find units that provide more value than the Intel Core i9 9900K. It doesn't feature big changes in its architecture from its predecessors, but the processors have seen improvements. This is mostly the result of more cores and threads. The Intel Core i9 9900K is an octa-core CPU compared to only 6 cores in the previous generation. It has a boosted clock speed of 5 GHz, the best boosted clock speed on any commercial CPU. Also, it's overclockable, so if the 5 GHz is not enough, you can squeeze some more processing power from the CPU. The new i9 features solder thermal interface materials instead of the thermal paste. The advantages of the STIMs, or STIMs, is the enhanced heat dissipation to intercept shutdowns of the system due to high temperatures. There's also Intel Optane memory supported and gigabit Wi-Fi speeds as well. In every benchmarking test, it has prevailed as the best in its category. For gaming frame rates, it was mostly equal with the i7 8700K, making the i7 8700K a better CPU for gaming only. As for raw computing power, the Intel Core i9 9900K is a beast. It records a power consumption of 204 watts at its peak. Despite the introduction of the STIM, the sheer amount of power overwhelms most of the cooling systems. Because of its power, the Intel Core i9 9900K needs an equally powerful cooling system to function properly. You can overclock this CPU to up to 7.6 GHz, but it's not recommended to do so if you're not an expert in this craft. Things get rather unstable past the 5.2 GHz mark and require caution and expertise to overclock it more, as well as a cooling system that can cool it down at those high voltages. If you're a media professional that needs heavy computing power, you won't find a better alternative. And at number 1, it's the Ryzen 5 2600. We arrived at our top pick for the best CPU for gaming in 2019. The Ryzen 5 2600 is the best because it offers 6 cores with 12 threads, amazing gaming performance, and an excellent price. It's a nice package for everyone that researches and wants to get their money's worth. Between the more expensive 2600X and 2600, there is not a big difference. They both have the advanced 12nm FinFET Zen Plus design and the 4.8 billion transistors. Both have 6-core and 12-thread builds that put them among the most powerful. The difference is at base and boost clock speed. The 2600 has a 3.4 GHz base and 3.9 GHz boost. The 2600X has 3.7 GHz and 4.2 GHz respectively. So, based on this, 2600 gets a lower TDP of 65 watts and automatically a weaker cooler than the 2600X's Wraith Spire. The Wraith Stealth is a good cooler as well. Performance-wise, it was pretty decent, not lagging behind any task and trying its best to keep up with more expensive designs. It lags behind its bigger brother, but not by a large margin. In gaming, it was really good and performed really well. It lacks only in very CPU-reliant games like Civilization 6. It's a decent normal chipset, but once you start tweaking and messing with the BIOS and the chip's clocks, you'll notice that this CPU is massively overclockable. It overcomes even the 2600X. It achieves a very stable 4.2 GHz, and the 2600X achieves just a 4.25 GHz before giving up. With a more powerful cooling system, you can get even higher numbers. It takes more effort, but it becomes better than its more expensive sibling. That's when you reap the best fruits. The gaming experience is simply amazing. Nobody can expect such a performance from a CPU that looks a little weaker on the numbers and has a very low price. It also is backwards compatible with older motherboards, and with the in-package included cooler, the Wraith Stealth makes this a nice choice for a do-it-yourself build. Decent performance all around, the Ryzen 5 2600 will be an awesome productivity package out of the box, but with slight tweaking, you'll look at one of the best gaming CPUs in the market.